The movie opens up with numerous phone calls echoing in the background as people connect with loved ones, sharing final messages. At this moment, we see that an asteroid has struck Earth, initiating a slow firestorm and devastating global catastrophe. Meanwhile, a young man named James can be seen returning from the one-night stand with his girlfriend Zoe. He turns on the radio and learns of the impending disaster, where it is mentioned that an asteroid has struck the North Atlantic Ocean, and in a mere 12 hours, its aftermath will reach Australia, causing a catastrophic firestorm. As the impending doom looms, diverse reactions emerge. Some opt to spend their last moments reading the Bible, seeking solace in faith, while others prioritize fulfilling their final wishes. Streets descend into chaos as people spill out of their homes, creating a tumultuous scene in the final moments. While driving, James drinks a bottle of alcohol and reflects on a conversation he had with Zoe earlier. Despite being afraid, James continues to drink, attempting to distract himself from impending danger. Suddenly, he has to halt the car due to shopping carts blocking the road. To his dismay, an unsettling encounter unfolds when a man, armed with a sharp and long knife, enters his car and confronts him. Claiming betrayal and seeking revenge, the man urges James to follow his directions to find a man. Eventually reaching the location of the perceived betrayal, the man takes the car keys, instructing James to stay put. Following this, he gets out of the car and starts slashing another man with his weapon. Witnessing the disturbed individual committing violence, James seizes the opportunity to escape. Hiding beneath cover, he holds his breath until the danger passes and only emerges when it's safe. James emerges from his hiding spot and attempts to open the car door. Just then, a red van pulls up a short distance away. Two men exit and forcibly take a frightened little girl named Rose with them. Despite her desperate pleas, James initially doesn't pay much attention to the distressing situation and tries to steal their van. But after they depart, he feels remorseful as the sound of Rose's screams weighs heavily on him. Summoning courage, James decides to rescue the little girl. Inside the house, he discovers the men in a room and successfully incapacitates one with the hammer. However, another big man attacks James from behind, attempting to strangle him with a rope. Luckily, our hero manages to fight back and save Rose from harm. Although scared, James reassures Rose of his good intentions and convinces her that he's there to help. Following this, he takes her to the van and inquires about her parents. James learns that Rose's mother has passed away, and her father, after running out of petrol, left her with the intention of seeking help from her Aunt Janice. Rose mentions that on their way, they encountered a threat, and her father hid her, but they got separated. Sympathetic to Rose's situation, James promises to take her to his sister's house as the van's fuel is running low. He assures Rose that he will eventually go to the party after ensuring her safety. Meanwhile, on their way, a voice on the radio claims that there are still 10 hours remaining before the catastrophe. Continuing his journey to the party, James makes a stop at his sister's house, intending to drop off Rose. James calls for his sister, but no one responds. Concerned, James opts to enter through the back door and searches for the family members. To his dismay, he notices water dripping from the stairs. James then asks Rose to go away while he looks around for his sister. Unfortunately, he walks upstairs only to discover a tragic scene. His sister and her husband have taken their own lives in the shower. Disturbingly, he also notices 3 cross marks on the side of the backyard, which seems to be the graves of his sister's children. This scene breaks James apart, and he grabs a whiskey bottle and gulps it in a go. Realizing that he can't leave Rose somewhere, James decides to take his sister's nearly empty car and brings Rose along, hoping to find someone at his friend's party who can help her. During their journey, Rose shows kindness and offers James a piece of cloth to tend to his bleeding arm. Right then, they come across a police car and notice him secretly taking his family to a library. James decides to approach the officer and hand over Rose to him. After this, James, hoping for assistance, confronts the officer and asks if he can leave Rose with them. To his bad luck, the officer refuses, expressing his despair and pleading with James to end his life along with his family. The latter rejects the grim request and immediately leaves with Rose. Ultimately, the policeman takes matters into his own hands and loads his gun. In the following scene, James arrives at his friend Freddy's house and requests entry. He asks about the ongoing party, and Freddy informs him that it's already in full swing. After a while, when the massive door opens, a large group of people is revealed, enjoying their final hours partying and engaging in risky games, not showing fear or sadness. Some people celebrate even when someone shoots themselves during a roulette game. Many are intoxicated and naked, engaging in casual encounters. Rose feels uncomfortable witnessing the wild atmosphere, but James, preoccupied with finding his girlfriend Vicky, pays little attention to her. As the party gets wilder, Rose urges James to leave, but he ignores her and continues searching for Vicky. Eventually, he meets Freddy and inquires about his sister. The latter tells him that she is sad and is waiting for him to arrive. James then runs his eyes around the swimming pool and notices her there. Vicky also sees him, and after meeting her, James goes to a room with her, leaving Rose to play alone in the pool. Inside, Vicky offers James drugs to get high and attempts to engage in intimate activities. However, James, still disturbed by the recent discovery of his sister's death, refuses her advances. Vicky persists, even trying to seduce him, but James kindly declines. Vicky then takes James outside and shows him a bunker beneath Freddy's garage, claiming it can protect them from the impending apocalypse. James, aware of its inadequacy, tries to convince Vicky of the grim reality, explaining that the bunker won't suffice and lacks sufficient provisions. This disappoints Vicky, making her distraught. She starts crying and screaming, mentioning that she does not want to die. Right then, Freddy enters the bunker, escalating the tension. He insists the bunker will save them, while James dismisses it as nonsense. Freddy tries to calm his sister down, and James leaves the scene. Meanwhile, at the pool, Rose encounters an unstable woman who mistakenly recognizes her as her long-lost daughter Mandy. She then happily approaches Rose and tries to touch her. Despite Rose's attempts to clarify her identity, the intoxicated woman persists, even offering her an ecstasy pill. The little girl tries to avoid the pill, but the woman insists she consume it. Initially hesitant, Rose eventually takes the pill when the woman promises to take her to her aunt's house. As soon as Rose consumes it, the drug causes her to hallucinate and feel dizzy. Returning to the party, James searches for Rose and discovers her vomiting in a corner, with the delusional woman hovering over her. Concerned about Rose's deteriorating condition, James decides to leave the party with her. He then carries her in his lap and proceeds toward the exit. At the same time, the mad woman accuses James of kidnapping her child, prompting Freddy to aim a gun at him. However, Vicky intervenes, taking the gun from Freddy and fatally shooting the delusional woman, urging James to leave. Using this opportunity, James walks out of the house with Rose. Recognizing Rose's worsening state, James decides to take her to his estranged mother's house. To his bad luck, he does not see any cars around the area. After a lengthy walk, James notices a cab, and while the owner is enjoying his beer, he steals it and drives it away. Treating Rose as if she were his own daughter, he provides water and expresses concern for her well-being. Upon arriving at his mother's house, James places Rose on a bed to rest. During this time, he engages in a conversation with his mother. The interaction reveals a strained relationship between James and his mom. As Rose recovers, James avoids disclosing his sister's death when questioned by his mother. She shares that she visited James's sister's house a day before, but was denied entry. The mother also expresses frustration for not being allowed to see her grandkids and blaming the sister's husband. In the next scene, James's mother reproaches him for the repetitive goodbyes, but ultimately forgives him, expressing her fondness for his visits. When James inquires about her plans for the remaining hours, she shares that she intends to pass the time by completing jigsaw puzzles. James then discloses his plan to take Rose to her father and asks if she has petrol for the car. Unfortunately, the mother reveals that her car got stolen, but mentions about the gallons in the garage. Without wasting any of the time, James visits the garage and takes 2 of the petrol gallons. Following this, Before departing, James shares final words and bids farewell to his mother, holding her hand one last time. At this moment, she acknowledges his efforts to take the little girl to her father and bids him a heartfelt goodbye. In the next scene, James and Rose continue their journey to the latter's aunt's house in Malaga. During their journey, the radio announcer updates them on the complete devastation of Southeast Asia, indicating the imminent firestorm's arrival in Australia within hours. Rose confides in James about falling for the deceitful woman's plan in the pool and feeling depressed. In response, James encourages her to forget the past and smile when reuniting with her father. Long story short, they finally reach Rose's aunt's house. Rose, excited to meet her father, rushes into the house but is disappointed to find it empty. Despite an exhaustive search, they discover nothing in the house and decide to explore the outside garden. Unfortunately, when James walks around, he spots the lifeless bodies of Rose's entire family, including her father. Following this, James finds Rose and breaks the devastating news to her, who, despite her hysterics, insists on a final farewell. James then comforts her and allows her to have a poignant moment with her father's lifeless body. Covering him with a cloth, James brings Rose's father to her by the pond. The little girl then sits by her father's body and places flowers over him. After a while, James invites Rose to join him, but she insists on staying by her father's side until the end, expressing her dad's wish for them to be together when it happens. Listening to this, James sits beside the girl, sharing his feelings about his relationship with Zoe and her pregnancy. Rose asks him if he loves Zoe more than Vicky, and our boy replies with a yes, leading him to realize his mistake. Rose then encourages him to reconcile with Zoe while there's still time. Surprisingly, he accepts her advice, and they share an emotional farewell before parting ways. Following this, James drives away, leaving Rose alone with her father's dead body. However, the little girl follows his car until she can, gazing at it till it disappears from sight. On the other hand, James continues driving, crying due to his bond with the little girl. With little time left, James heads to Capricorn Beach. Unfortunately, the car engine overheats and explodes on the highway, forcing James to run the remaining distance. After a while, though he arrives at the beach house on time, he doesn't find Zoe inside as the storm approaches. Frantically searching, he locates his girl on the beach, observing the impending firestorm alone. Initially angry, Zoe refuses to let James come closer to her. However, he apologizes for his actions, and they quickly reconcile, expressing their love for each other one last time. The couple embraces, facing the rapidly advancing firestorm. The movie concludes with their faces glowing red from the intense heat before succumbing to the firestorm's deadly impact.